Welcome to episode 9, and I'm just going to start off right off the bat with committing a little bit of sacrilege. Going to change a traditional Armada hotkey from E to F. I think F could be along the lines of thinking of find, which is similar to explore, so good enough for me. And the reason I'm going to do this is because if you notice here, and by the way, if that really bothers you, out of the box it's going to come. It's going to come out of the box with F, but you can always change it. This stuff is going to be able to be customized by the user. So, um, if you recall, we have a couple axes that we use predominantly for panning, horizontal and vertical, and some of these options have been interesting. Okay, that would be joystick options. Cool, cool. I'm gonna go up to the ones that I meant to talk about. Here we go. For left, right, A, D. So kind of WASDA for panning, but I find that it makes a lot more sense for we're gonna have this orbiting movement that I've shown you in previous videos. It's where we made sort of the pan relative to how the camera was facing, and I want to set up kind of another axis for that. So I'm going to duplicate that, and we're going to call this orbit, and this orbit, and it's going to be W, and aha, here we go, E. And again, it just makes more sense. I've WASD and then Q and the E to orbit around. Just to kind of consolidate all those right in one spot on the keyboard for players. And F really, isn't too far away from E. And I think it's been 20 years. People can either change it or maybe get used to a new a new hotkey for that. I'm trying to be as true as I can, but you know, sometimes you gotta try something that might be better. All right, so now that I've set the input up for this new button, we can now add this in the we can now make an orbit function in our camera controller. Alrighty, I just took a second to add a lot of comments to my scripts. Now, if you press 3 slashes, you can here, for instance, 1, 2, 3. It will add a summary for any function or variable, and you can type a function of camera tilt. Camera tilt is a function of height. So now anytime you hover over, it's going to say that message. This would be really useful for people coding. And then of course you can have a tooltip. Which will show up when you hover over that field in the editor. There we go. Now we're going to go back down and create our orbit camera function. I'm going to start by creating a params float amount. Remember, the way that our happening with input function requires functions to have a params, whatever type, and it gets delivered in the form of an array, even if only one thing is sent through. So I'm just going to say vector3 offset rote equals new vector3. We want 0 around the x-axis. We want to add the amount at the y-axis and 0 around the z. And make sure that we have the first item in the array, because, well, only one item is getting passed through, so we just have to deal with this kind of funky format because to add more flexibility for things that are going to be past multiple things, such as with our horizontal or with our pan camera function. I'm going to create a new vector3 that is going to keep track of current camera rote. That's going to equal main camera. You know what? We're not going to rotate the camera. We're rotating the orbiter. So it's going to be this dot transform dot rotation dot Euler angles. Now I'm going to take the make a vector3 new rotation. I'm going to set it equal to current orbiter rote. You know what? This is just a matter of preference, but I'm just gonna do this right here. Just like that. And save us a step. Save the computer's memory. Just one little extra variable here. And now we're gonna take this dot transform dot rotation equals quaternion dot Euler new rote. And of course, we're going to need to make sure that we add this on orbit, and the name of the thing was orbit camera. And I'm just going to take the opportunity to add these other ones to the on disable and change them from subscribe to unsubscribe. Interesting. I wonder what's going on. Oh, I see. So just to explain this a little bit, we're going to be passed a positive or negative value from that orbit axis, and it's going to be a small number, but we're going to save it in our y-axis, and then we take the current rotation of the thing and we add that kind of that displacement rotation to the new rotation, and then we update this object. So we're on the orbiter. We update the rotation, but rotation is a little bit funny when you use Euler angles. So there's something I guess called gimbal lock. So rotations like to be in the form of quaternions. So we can there's a function on the quaternion class called Euler that can take these three angles and turn it into a quaternion very easily and satisfy that. Conceptually, for humans, it's easier to work with Euler angles, kind of the XYZ axis, or rotation, heading, or sorry, let's see, pitch, bank heading, or pitch heading bank. That's one way to call it. But then we got to convert that back into the language that computers like, which are not factor 3s, but quaternions. So we translate it to, we translate it to Euler angles, and then the old rotation, add the new offset rotation, and then convert it back to quaternions. Hey guys, I just had a real fun time with pressing W and S. For some reason, it's been rotating around, and for the past 15 minutes, it's been baffling and confusing me, adding lots of debug log statements, turning things on and off in the code. And it turns out the reason was when I duplicated the vertical element here, it saved the Alt negative button and Alt positive button. So it's simultaneously now rotating and panning. So let's turn this off here. Make sure to get rid of these. And now, ignore this. This just happens when the game shuts off on disable for some reason. But, okay, now check this out. When we can pan normally now, but we can also press, if I press Q, we'll go this way. Press W, go that way. Now I actually like the opposite to happen, so I'm going to go into the code here, and I'm going to go down to our orbit camera, and I'm going to have it be the negative amount, and that will flip things to be more conceptually well now, or another option could be to go into Input Manager and just flop these around. Well, no, E is supposed to be a positive, so I don't know, to me that makes more sense. I guess it's counterclockwise, but whatever. I'm just going to put a negative there. And I think with that, if I can just test real quick, you'll see, let me press E here. Yep, we'll be spinning around this way. Spinning around that way. And yeah, I absolutely love this feature. I think going in low and kind of seeing things from slightly below will be kind of a breath of fresh air in this game, because it's not just the top of ships that I want to see sometimes. It's all sorts of angles. So I'm pretty happy with the camera for now. In the previous version, I had a really fancy Sins of a Solar Empire like camera that we'll eventually make, and I'll just, if you'd like, I could give you a little bit of a preview here. There's also a Mary Cameramis or whatever Cameras video that I made previously, and if I press caps lock, for some reason it jumps. Got to fix that. I had some pretty complicated camera movement. I can kind of look this way. I can go like this. I can move around like that. I can fly with things. So we'll get there after a little bit, but I want to get ships to start moving around in our scripts. I want to mess around with pathfinding, and I want to be able to get some selection going. So we will revisit the camera after a little bit here. So anyway, that's it for now. Take care. I'll see you next time in part 10.